sometimes we get so focused on our skills, but the biggest thing is building that rapport and coming from a non-judgmental place. And had I gone and sought help and been judged in any sort of way, I would have left.
Hello, and welcome back to You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions. We're a counseling agency here in Iowa, and we're still doing telehealth. We're still doing in-office and in-school mental health therapy sessions, as well as in-home and in-school behavioral health intervention for kids.
And I'm Chrissa. I am the vice president at Heart and Solutions in charge of our Vickis department. So Vickis stands for Behavioral Health Intervention Services. And that's the program where we go in home, or we can see kids in office or in school or telehealth and work with them on different behavioral skills. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
So we post on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Central. We always have a little preview, a little sneak peek on Friday evenings. And then Sunday night, we post our new episode. And we always just suggest batch up whatever task you hate doing and save it for Sunday night. And then you can put on the podcast that night. So popular ones are folding laundry. So you've got clean clothes for the week, meal prepping. So you've got meals made for the week. I feel like all the time we're adding new horrible tasks to this list. The newest one being get your workout on during the podcast. That gives you the entire week to get in touch with your counselor, to contact our guest from that week's show. And if you haven't seen your counselor, if you don't have a counselor yet, go ahead and reach out that week. That gives you that whole week to get in for your sessions. So today we've got a special guest. We've got Vicki Ailey-Roberson. Vicki is a licensed mental health counselor. She's also certified in EMDR, and that's that eye movement desensitization and reprocessing technique. We've done a few little techniques on that on the podcast, so long-term listeners will be familiar with that a little bit. Also, Vicki works with couples, which we have not talked about very much at all on the podcast. So I'm super excited to hear about what that is like. Vicki is the founder, owner of Ankeny Family Counseling. And Ankeny Family Counseling and Heart and Solutions, we're kind of like growing up together, I feel like. So Ankeny Family Counseling started in 2015. We started just a few months earlier in 2014. So it's just been really, really cool getting to see Ankeny Family Counseling grow, get into new locations, just kind of expand the services that they're providing. So they've got 7 therapists right now, including Vicki. Vicki does clinical work as well. And then 2 admins handling their billing and helping clients when they call in. So a practice that is very much growing in a great location. Ankeny is awesome. We love Ankeny. Chrissa used to live in Ankeny.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really awesome location and a very quickly growing population out there in Ankeny, a lot of movement and stuff happening out there. So welcome, Vicki. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Julie and Chrissa. It's nice to be here.
Wonderful. So, I mean, from your bio and just from getting to follow you over the last several years since we first met, I know that you are just all about helping people. Like that is like your main, I mean, the entire agency, right? And the field and the profession is just all about helping people. Where did that come from in your life? How did you get that kind of fire to go out and be this passionate about it?
Good question. And this is something that I didn't talk about until just the last few years ago. And I'm not really sure why that is, but when I was young, my 18, 19, 20-year-old, I had a lot of my own problems. And At that time in my life, I was lost. I didn't have any direction. I was getting into some things that I just wasn't grown up around. And, I just really was really struggling with life. And I found some counselors. My family did some interventions on me. And through a series of very difficult events, I finally became willing to seek help. And so I had the kindness of strangers, and that's kind of what I look at. I mean, that's how I saw these counselors. They were complete strangers to me, but they were kind and they were helpful. And the biggest thing is they believed in me. Like they believed in me that I could change and make a difference. And that's exactly what happened. And so again, kind of through the school of hard knocks, I became introduced to the profession, and my life began on a trajectory that I had no idea what was going to happen or where I was going. And I ended up going to community college and began in the secretarial program because, I mean, that's what I thought I could do. And it was apparent that that was not a good spot for me. I am not detail oriented. Um, and so I soon just began to work on my liberal arts degree and eventually transferred at Mount Mercy College into the School of Social Work there and received my bachelor's degree. And then I eventually went on to get my master's degree at Drake University in their counseling department. So, I'm the kind of person that really shouldn't be here in front of you today. It was just a matter of inches and seconds. My life could have ended up in a horrible disaster. And again, because just of a series of events and some fantastic counselors, I sit here in front of you today. And so I'm very passionate about helping others. It is literally in my bones. I feel like I was born to do this. It becomes, I mean, it's natural for me to care and to nurture others. And I'm a lifelong learner. So I have continued to grow my skills and am currently getting some Gottman training because and I'll talk more about this later, but I really love the challenge of couples. So that's how I got here.
Wow. Yeah, I love that because when you said, the kindness of strangers and having that experience that you described of like, I feel like I'm alone in this. I'm lost, right? I
Yeah,
don't have any guidance. I don't have any guiding light. And then here come counselors who like have no reason to care about me as a human, right?
exactly.
And they don't know me. They're not my family, right?
Right.
But still extending that kindness, still extending that support. That helped you make those decisions in your life, that helped you change some of those circumstances or cope with some of those circumstances that you were going through, and really change the outcome of your life.
And they were non-judgmental. And that's the
Mm.
thing. Like when you make bad decisions in your life, like I was making very poor decisions. I guess I shouldn't use the word bad, but very, very poor decisions. And my life, I mean, people could have judged that very harshly. And some people did. I mean, my family, they were frustrated. But I felt the non-judgment of these counselors. And that is so powerful. Sometimes we get so focused on our skills, but the biggest thing is building that rapport and coming from a non-judgmental place. And had I gone and sought help and been judged in any sort of way, I would have left.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that because, you are a lifelong learner and you are, continually honing your skills, making sure that, you're up to date on latest trainings. But at the same time, you know that that's not what the base is of the service you're providing. The service you're providing is the relationship. It is the safe place where somebody can come and talk about things and not have that experience of feeling judged, right? And that is so important. That's the most important thing. when I think about counseling from the point of view of somebody who might be thinking about counseling, right, but doesn't really know all about counseling, you think it can be very overwhelming when we say, well, Vicki's an LMHC and she's EMDR certified, right? And she's got Gottman chain and all of that. And so to hear you, who has all of these credentials and who has all of this training and certifications, say, yeah, but the most important thing when I was looking for a counselor was that I not feel judged by this person, that I feel safe with this person. I think just shows what a great focus you have, and that your agency has on that relationship and the importance of building that foundational relationship in counseling.
So true. And I talk with new hires or potential hires, and I'll say that, like, you can have the greatest skills, you can be trained and certified and this and that, and have these great, fantastic skills. But the number one thing that I need is compassion. I need compassion. You can be the most skilled person, but if that's lacking, that's a problem. So to me, compassion far exceeds EMDR certified, so it just does.
Mhm.
I love that. What's that saying? And I don't know who said it. Maybe I should know who said it, but nobody cares what you know until they know how much you care.
That is cool. And I say this a lot too. I believe that probably 1/3 to 1/2 of our clients wouldn't even seek counseling if they had people that they could be with that were kind and loving and understanding and non-judgmental. A lot of our clients, they don't have that. They don't have that support. Often during the assessment, it comes out that they really don't have anyone. And we know that people that are isolated, that don't have that support, that kindness, that nurturing, they don't do as well in life. And so I see that frequently. I think that, again, I see that as a huge need as human beings. We need people that we can connect with. From the cradle to the grave, we're wired to be deeply connected. As children, it's our caregivers. As adults, it's our person, like it's our relationship. And, we're wired to have that secure bond, that we have people in our life that we know are there for us no matter what. They've got our back. We can count on them, and that they get us, like they get our emotional world. And we can just relate. And that we are wired that way. And without that, it sets off sometimes a primal alarm inside where, it may be anger or fear or anxiety. Without that secure bond to others. And sometimes as counselors, we are that secure bond for people that they lack that in their life.
Yeah, it does. It changes our body chemistry. Like it changes our brain chemistry when we're around people that we feel emotionally secure, where we feel emotionally safe. And so there are children, especially who grow up that don't have a physically safe person, right, to be around, and let alone an emotionally safe person to be around. And when we're not modeled those things by another person, then it's very difficult for us as humans, because we learn through modeling. We learn through seeing people do that thing in different situations. And if we don't get to see that, it's very difficult for us to do it, to emulate it, because we have nothing to emulate if we don't have that input. And so I think that sometimes too, the suffering that that people are experiencing comes out to others as, like you said, aggression. It comes out to others as unpleasantness, right? Arguing, and especially the last 2 years, right? There's been so much arguing, right? And I think that I don't think it's a coincidence that when we were all in in social isolation because we were doing social distancing, that yes, we needed to do that for physical safety maybe, right? But emotionally, then it created a really those alarms, like you said, those alarms went off in our brains and we went, oh my gosh, I'm alone. And so having that counselor sometimes is that only person, that one person that models those things for us and shows us that, like, okay, kindness is not necessarily weakness, right? My therapist is kind to me, but they also set boundaries with me, right? And so it's not one or the other, right? I don't have to be aggressive or rude or, loud to be strong and to be protected, to protect myself. I think so
Yeah.
much of that, those behaviors that we see in society, that as a society we're like, oh, that's a messed up person. Like, we judge the behavior, but so much of the time it's coming from such pain
Yes.
internally.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's so how do you see this coming out or working in couples work? Because oh my goodness, working with couples is so different than working with individuals, and you described it as the challenge of working with couples, and I'm with you. How do you see these kinds of things come out when you're working with couples?
Yeah, first, I want to just talk just for a second about therapists and couples. And so there is kind of a trend for therapists to not want to work with couples. And I think that what happens, this has been my experience, is that therapists they'll get some high conflict couples where things just really spin out in the session on a regular basis. And I think a therapist often feels overwhelmed and may even get flooded themselves with emotion. And so oftentimes therapists, they just decide, okay, I'm just going to work with individuals, not couples. And I think that, it's important to have some training before really taking on couples. And sometimes I don't think that that happens, but we have to have some form of training to work with couples and to feel like we're making a difference, to be able to see the change in couples. And couples are part of what makes couples challenging is what makes them great is that they're opposite. Like the two people on the couch, you can better believe are going to be exact opposites. And so their emotional world, the way they process, the way they problem solve, the way they filter information is very different. And so it's double the work, right? At really grasping what's going on and what each of the individuals needs in the couple. So, I highly recommend training like Sue Johnson's EFT, emotionally focused therapy, or Gottman. I think that those training modalities are really excellent working with couples. And oftentimes what happens with couples is we just kind of put our relationship on autopilot. I mean, I think that when we first meet, we're in love, maybe a little in lust as well. But we're in love and we adore the person. The person really balances out because they balance us out because they're an exact opposite. And the very things that attract us in the beginning, later down the road, are often the things that drive us crazy about our partner. And so I think that for what I see with couples is that sometimes the dating is short-lived, and then we're fully adulting together, and we're bringing families on board, and we're raising families, and we get very busy. And couples begin to forget that, they're a priority, and that relationship has got to have tending to. It's like a garden. Like you've got to seed the garden, you've got to water it, you've got to give it food, then you've got to pull out weeds that kind of are strangling, what's growing. And so it really takes a lot of work. And again, when I see couples, they've tried to usually solve their problems on their own for like about 2 years. That's been just my opinion. About 24 months, they've been using all of their own resources. And clients do have a lot of resources, and they just keep trying and trying, and then they'll finally seek some outside help and support. They have unmet needs. The arguing, the fighting, the disconnection is really about those needs not getting met. And we all have needs in relationships. Needs like to be seen and heard and understood and valued and appreciated, to be celebrated, to be known, to be remembered. Those are all those emotional needs in a relationship. And if we're not putting the time into that, if we're not listening to our partner, if we're not able to listen, those needs are not going to get met. And so things happen, things are said, hurts happen, and hurts leave a wound. And we often are struggling with, forgiveness around those wounds. And, so, again, I really appreciate couples because they're a challenge. And when I think about what I went into this field for, it's to help others. And while couples are a challenge, when you think about helping, not only are you helping that couple, but you're also helping maybe their children or other family members, because it's so tragic when a relationship ends. And especially if there are kiddos involved, because now you might only be with your child about 50% of the time. So I look at that stakes are really high. When a couple ends up in therapy, there's a lot to be lost, but there's also a lot to be gained if they can work through these emotional unmet needs and begin to turn to each other and tune in and to develop the most important thing, which is empathy for one another. And empathy, when couples end up into therapy, empathy is usually very low because there's been a lot of hurt. And that has to happen. You have to be able to empathize with the pain that your partner is in and to see them. And oftentimes, some of that pain that your partner is in is the same kind of pain that they may have had as a child, where maybe one of their parents have had low empathy, or maybe one of their parents have been absent, or that sort of thing. And so sometimes that pain is connected. And other time, like there may be referrals that need to be made for individual counseling.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting what you're saying about couples counseling and the empathy piece especially, and how we kind of get nose blind. Like, isn't that like a Febreze commercial, right? About nose blindness to our house, right? And we kind of get nose blind to our partners sometimes because our it made me think of, when my husband and I first started dating and we were just together all the time. And then we, built or remodeled a house together. Right. And we were like, and then that was kind of the focus. And then we started a business together. And then that was kind of the focus. And then we had a daughter. And in the meantime, sprinkled in, we had 3 cats. Right. And I remember when we got the cat was like the baby, right? Like the cat was like, oh, I love my cat. I was like always taking pictures of my cat and like, sitting with my cat all the time, spending so much. And then my kid was born and I'd be like, get out of here. Right. And like, just, because like the cat would like jump on me or like put, and it changed that dynamic with my cat, because my cat wasn't my baby anymore, right? My baby was my baby. And similarly with my husband, our relationship, became a it becomes something that you have to intentionally do, because otherwise, like, it's not built in the way that it kind of is when you're dating, right? When you're courting
Right.
and you're like not living together and you're not like doing, working together or whatever it is. And so everything that you do when you go on a date, that's an intentional act. There's planning in that. There's, when you're doing it, that's what you're doing. You're on a date. Whereas when you're with dinner with your partner, your married partner, if you've got kids, or if you're, just doing life and you kind of live together, so you see them all the time, you could be doing a million other things at that dinner. Trying to get your kids under control, or trying to, like, in the bathroom changing diapers, or on your phone thinking about work or whatever it is. There's a million things that you're doing other than dating or being to dinner with your partner. And so I think all of those things just kind of come in to the relationship, and they're wonderful things. They can be beautiful things, but once you add something else, then you have to be so intentional about the
Do.
relationship too.
Absolutely. And that's why, I mean, if a lot of times, couples are assigned that they've got to begin to date one another. And so, they have a weekly date night, or every other week date night, and that they're intentional about that. They find a babysitter. They don't take the children, and they're not on their phones. They put their phones away, or they don't take their phones. But, to just be intentional, and then it's not on one partner to schedule it. I mean, there's a handoff. One week, one partner schedules it. The next week, the other partner schedules it. So again, we want to feel like we felt when we dated, like we sat on the edge of the chair on every word our partner said. I mean, we couldn't wait to be together. Like, we would stop everything to just to be together. And so, often again, that's one of the first assignments, is that you begin to put that back in your marriage. And, again, oftentimes, those some of those unmet needs are physical. And I love Esther Perel. She's a Belgian psychologist, and she works a lot with couples. She's got some really awesome YouTube videos out there. Her name is Esther Perel, and she is really dynamite in terms of working with couples. And she talks about how our biggest organ on our body is skin, and that, we need to be like touching one another, just being in close proximity, holding hands, an arm, a hand on an arm. And again, sometimes, sex has been an area that's been difficult for couples. And, you think about, when you first started dating, like, you just couldn't wait to be physical, right, with your partner, and how sometimes those needs just go unmet in a relationship. And I've been really surprised, because I've often had opinions like one gender may desire to be desired more than the other. But, when you start talking to everyone as couples, they'll say, like, I wonder if my partner even desires me or finds me desirable or attractive. And, again, we need to be intentional about that. Give our partner those affirmations. I find you extremely handsome. You look so handsome, or you look so beautiful. I just love the color of your eyes. But, just being able to be affirmative to your partner is so important. Some people need more affirmations than others. And if that's your partner's love language, be intentional about that. Send little sticky notes or hide little notes here and there for your partner to find those. And so, those are, again, some of the assignments that we will assign couples. We encourage couples to be intimate. And, if there's been a long period of disconnection, sometimes one of the partners, that's really the last thing that they really want to do. I mean, they have emotional needs that need to be met first. And so, but I always say, if sex feels safe and it's tolerable, sex is good for a marriage and or a relationship. And so be mindful of that. But often, there's issues around that, and those are things that we work through in counseling. So it's just important that we carve out time for our partner. And I think about how we're so busy. And Julie, as a business owner, you could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you have a sweet little girl and a wonderful husband that's waiting for you to come home. And you've got to shut it off. You've got to turn it off. And we have to carve out time for our partner and our family. They deserve that. And to be fully present, which means we're not checking the email. We're not doing that. We're blocking time out where we don't let our work encroach on that, so that our family believes that they are important and that we're stepping away from those things that distract us from being fully present.
Yeah, I think that, as work becomes more and more knowledge-based, and as work becomes more and more thought-based, right? Versus physical, right? And especially with the pandemic, where work became more and more mobile, and with technology, how work becomes more and more mobile. I remember when I was in grad school getting my master's, I was working as a debt collector, and that job was awesome. And because you had your computer and your headset at work, and you went in and you clocked in on the little thing, and you were working when you were working, and you clocked out for your break, and then you couldn't bring your work home. You didn't have a dialer. You didn't have a headset, right? There was no way for me to debt collect while I was at home. And I think as work becomes more mobile, right? And even now, after the pandemic, that same company, now people are debt collecting from home, right? And they're continuing to debt collect from home. And I think that as that happens, we have to be so intentional about it, because the natural barriers that used to be there, I can't weld when I'm off the clock because I don't have welding equipment here at my house. Well, now I do, right? Like I can't do counseling because I'm not, or I can't, do emails because I'm not at the office and my computer's at the office. Well, now I do. Now it's in my pocket. Now it's in my purse, right? And so those barriers, those boundaries have to be self-imposed. We have to do it intentionally, whereas we used to have some of those things built in, right? Office hours of when the office was open, things like that. And I think that it is so important doing that. I know we're talking about couples, but with kids too, being able to have that time where it's just about them and we can intentionally be together. And I think that it feels like something that I think sometimes we think like it should be just naturally occurring because we're together all the time. But my daughter, oh my gosh, my daughter did not have school on Friday, and she was with her grandma for part of the day, right? And then she said to me, "Well, I haven't had school all day, and we haven't had any quality time." And I went, "Yeah, it's Friday."
Yeah, she made a bid. She made a bid for connection.
Yeah, she said, "We have not had any quality time." And I was like, "We've been together." And she's like, "I know, but quality time." And
Quality
time. Like, yeah, quality time. And it's so true, how important that is. And when I learned about PCIT, parent-child interactive therapy, this was before my daughter was born, but I learned about like the 5-minute special time, right? And how important that is. And what that is you set the timer for 5 minutes and you literally like sit and watch or interact if you're invited, watch your child play. And that is what you do. And if they do something in the play, you can say, oh yeah, you moved that doll, or that doll's eating, or whatever it is. But through PCAT, you're learning about PCAT, you realize like how important even 5 minutes is of quality time, even if it's the weekend and you spend the entire day around your child, but your child is doing something else, or your partner. If you spend the entire day around your partner, but you guys are like cleaning the kitchen,
Right.
it can be quality time, but it's not necessarily quality time. It has to be intentional to make it quality time. And I think that couples counseling, this discussion is making me think. So, couples counseling, when we talk about stigma for mental health counseling, couples counseling really has it even harder than individual counseling, because I think it's kind of a perpetuating, self-perpetuating cycle. And you let me know, because you're the one who actively works with couples and has this experience. But it seems that that because couples counseling is stigmatized, that you do that when you're on the brink of divorce, that people don't go to couples counseling when they're not on the brink of divorce. They don't do it. And like you said, that 24 months, right? That 2 years of like, well, we're not going to do it. We're going to work this out on our own, not wanting to go to counseling because that's what people do as the last straw of the relationship. And then go in. And then by that time, there's so much work to be done that it's very difficult, right, to do that work. And then the divorce happens, and then that perpetuates this idea that you only go to couples counseling when you have no other option, right? Mm-hmm. And there aren't very many societal modeling, right, or normalization of couples going to counseling that are healthy couples, going to counseling to stay a healthy couple.
Right.
We don't see that in society or in our culture at all. Do you find that to be the case?
Absolutely. I totally find that to be the case. And, oftentimes it just puts one partner on the defense that's not calling to schedule because oh, are you going to leave me? Are you leaving me? And it is. I mean, I think there is such a stigma. And it's really a shame, that couples wait until they're just out of absolute options and they're beside themselves. But again, I think you're right. There just isn't good models of that. There is premarital counseling, but I mean that's very different. But I think it's at least a start in that direction to be able to look at your differences, love languages, things like that, learn your partner in a little different light. But yeah, I mean, I think that it would be much better if it was just more out there in the world. I mean, I'll just say it, my husband and I, we've been married now coming up on 7 years, and we married each other later in life. And we had some challenges and we sought counseling, and it's been amazing what it's done for our marriage. And it's opened both of our eyes in such a new way to each other's needs. And we're much more intentional. I've learned to make him a priority. My husband loves words of affirmation. I don't need words of affirmation. And so I'm so much more intentional about that. And I think couples counseling has saved our marriage. And it's been a beautiful thing. So, we give hope. We give hope to couples. I give hope to couples that your marriage can be better if you are willing to do the work. And and I can absolutely state that because I've experienced it on my own. So yeah.
Love that couples can go, healthy couples who are just dealing with life, like life in general is a
Yes.
challenge.
Yes.
And so healthy couples who are not on the road to separation can still benefit greatly from couples counseling. And I think that
Yes.
message doesn't get sent enough. I love that you're talking about this, because the same way that we, go for walks or try to drink water to stay healthy, the exact same is true for couples counseling. And just because society has such a link between, well, you go to couples counseling when you're on the brink of divorce, right? Because that link is kind of so strong, I think it continues to strengthen itself, because then healthy couples don't attend, right? Because they go, well, that's not
Right.
us, or that's not for us, because we're doing fine. And so I love this idea and this message that no, it is for every couple. Every couple can benefit from it. We're all going through all kinds of things
Yes.
in our relationship, and beautiful things like getting a dog or getting a cat or having a child or remodeling a house together or buying a house together, right? Like, those are beautiful life events and there's nothing wrong with them, but they are stressful on a relationship in the best of circumstance. Chrissa and Connor are looking at houses now, right? And like, that is a stressful.
Yes.
Remember when we were doing it, like, that is hard. There's compromise to be made. There's a lot of communication that needs to happen with something as fun, right? And as like joyful as buying a first home together.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, stress, that's a big thing that can really, just make life super hard. And those good things can be stressful. And and then we're trying to navigate that with somebody that's our exact opposite. And the key really is to be able to really listen to my partner, and to seek to understand, right? Versus seek to be understood. And, just really being able to tune in, really be attuned to what our partner is saying, because it's so opposite often of what we're thinking about or what we want to have done. So,
that is really one of the core messages about relationships in general that we're hearing today in this episode, is that hearing our partner, it's not automatic. Like, it's
oh,
hard sometimes. There's so many distractions, but it's so important. It's that, just like with a counseling relationship, that trust building and that safety feeling, right? When we're communicating with each other, is so important in the counseling relationship, and similarly so important between couples, to kind of get back to that place where we're truly listening to each other and we're truly wanting to help each other. I love that you talked about the love languages, because mine is acts of service, like definitely acts of service, and my husband's is gift giving. And that's like my lowest one. Don't give me stuff. Like, you take stuff out of my house. That's an act of service. And so it's just amazing how different we are and how opposites do attract, which is great and beautiful. And I think that's one benefit of, as a therapist, of being a couples counselor, is you get to see the same situation from totally different viewpoints. I would imagine that really helps, just like personally, is a benefit for opening up our perspective on the world in general.
yes, absolutely. Yep, just understanding the dynamic, the differences, yeah, I think it does help us.
So, Vicki, so tell me about Ankeny Family Counseling, and how can people get connected with you? Where are you located? And then how do people get in touch with you guys to get started with services?
Sure. So we're up here by the New Prairie Trail Hy-Vee. We're at 1850 Southwest Plaza Shops Lane, and we're in Suite D. And we can be reached at 515-508-1150. And you can also find us on the web. It's just www.ankenyfamilycounseling.com. There is a contact button in our website where we'll get an email from you. So, those are the ways to reach us. We have grown since my bio. I probably need to update that, but I think there's 10 of us now, and there's 2.5 administrative team. So we just continue to grow, and I'm just excited about that growth. We have a wide range of clinicians. We have both telehealth and in person. We have therapists that their niche are teenagers. We have some that are children. We have some that are couples, some that are trauma focused. And so we just have a wide range of therapists here at Ankeny Family Counseling.
I love that. And, I always love a practice that, or an agency that offers that variety, because for families coming in, therapy, one of the barriers to going to counseling or therapy of any kind is time. Time is a huge challenge. We only have 24 hours of it in a day. It's limited, and we've got to budget it. And so if I want individual counseling for me, and my husband's going to individual counseling and my daughter is, but we're all going to family together, and my husband and I are doing couples counseling, it's such a benefit to be able to go to an agency where people are working together in one location, but offering different services, because my daughter can go see her counselor while I'm seeing mine, right? Or while we're doing couples, and it saves that time as well when you go to an agency like that, where people are
absolutely. Yep. And I think the telehealth is also really important. I think that in, more like in Iowa, it's not quite as utilized as much as I think like on the coast, like East or West Coast. But, with time constraints, telehealth is perfect. I mean, you can jump on at your lunch, or you can jump on before work or after work. I would love to see people take more advantage of the telehealth. I'm finding that there's more people that want in person than telehealth. And we've actually had that experience even right after the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I love telehealth for my own therapy. I love it. I think I was driving to Waterloo. That's 30 miles there and 30 miles back. And it's between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Like, that's hard to keep going. That is really, really difficult. But 1 hour on a lunch break in the middle of the day, where I can go from one meeting to therapy to another meeting, is so awesome. And also for telehealth, a lot of times those hours are more fluctuated or varied as well. And so for a long time, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, I was doing an 8 a.m. telehealth session with my therapist. That is awesome. You can do it at the beginning of the day. You're not missing work. Like, just really, really a lot of benefits to telehealth. I love it. So I agree with you. I think that's really great. And I've seen, we've got couples here at Heart and Solutions that'll do telehealth, and it's so much easier for scheduling couples too, because they don't have to be in the same location. They don't have to both come to the office after work. They can just log on separately and be on the call together, which I just think is so beneficial. So awesome that you guys are doing that out there as well, offering both in-person and telehealth. I think is great.
I'm Vicki Ailey-Roberson, and I need a counselor.
Yes, thank you. Me too. So does Chrissa. We all do. We all need it. I love it. Awesome. So definitely, if you are in the Ankeny area or in Iowa and interested in telehealth, look up Ankeny Family Counseling. And if you are in any of our Heart and Solutions locations, go ahead and give us a call at 800-531-4236. What I love about watching your agency grow as our agency grows is that we don't have any overlap, right? Like, we are, and that's amazing, because as people move around the state, and especially like 2021, a lot of people were moving in 2021, right? And to kind of be in different locations. And so I think that's just so awesome to be able to be part of this network of counselors, kind of all growing and doing this together.
And like Julie mentioned at the beginning, we post new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central. So save up your laundry or your meal prepping or your exercising or whatever task you hate doing and listen to us for Sunday night at 5 p.m. And we can help convince you to call a counselor and get set up with services that week. And if you have any questions for us or for Vicki, you can reach out to us on Facebook at You Need a Counselor Podcast, or on our Instagram. You can send us a DM at You Need a Counselor Podcast there as well. So I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.